So today's conversation, Hersh, is about empathy, and I actually meant to look it up in the dictionary to see what the dictionary defined it as, and I'm wondering, did you look it up, or what's
Did,
your
did
definition?
I look it up? I did not look it up, but then again, the dictionary doesn't have any feelings. So
Ah,
the dictionary doesn't care whether we look it up or not. But empathy would be that we know how the dictionary feels because we have experienced it ourselves. I may not be exactly right, but I do sense that that empathy has a lot to do with feeling what others feel, as opposed to sympathy, where we have feelings toward the way they're feeling. We feel, like we can appreciate how they're feeling, but it isn't the same as feeling what that other person's feeling. And it doesn't mean that we're feeling it because it's happening to us. In spite of the fact that it's not happening to us, we're still feeling that emotion because we know so well what that emotion is like.
it's the difference between feeling with empathy and feeling for sympathy.
Well said. Well, there
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah. So yes, empathy is about feeling with, and today is election day in the United States. It's been a hotly contested battle. Although I will admit that I've been on the sidelines. I am not taking part in this battle. I I don't know what your point of view is when this is not about a political discussion, but it is. We named this program Empathy because a lot of feelings have been stirred up. And in sales, when you feel with someone, as opposed to feeling for someone, you're more likely to move forward in the relationship and hence be able to work together. And hence, that's why we're talking about empathy.
Yeah, and I think, Nancy, there's a couple thoughts that I want to share about empathy. One is that um, the subject came to mind because we knew that emotions run high, and we sensed that the best course that we can take is to try to empathize with other people. In other words, if one side wins, another side is going to lose, and then how is that going to feel? Well, if we've been invested in the election up until this point, then we know what it's going to feel like if we lose. Most likely, we have lost before, whether it's in politics or anything else. But we know what it feels like, and the stakes, as it were, as high as they can possibly be. Uh, One person is going to feel incredibly uh, sad and dejected about the outcome. Another person is going to be relieved, at the very least, elated, possibly, and hopeful. Um, and the question is, how do we appreciate deeply with, like you used the word with, how do we care with the outcome for them? And so that's really the main thing. And I will say that where empathy plays a role in my voting decisions, in this case, I try to empathize with my late parents. Like, I try to think, what would they be feeling right now? Now, that's not going to necessarily determine how I voted, but it did. My father served in the U.S. military. My mother's brother and her father were both career officers in the U.S. military, one in the Air Force and my grandfather in the Army as a lieutenant colonel. And I think that growing up, I always had tremendous empathy for my mother as an Army brat, growing up as an Army brat, and feeling what she felt about the United States and what it meant and what democracy meant. And so the right to vote was ingrained in me at a very early age, even before I was old enough to vote, but certainly since, and I never have missed an election since.
Hmm.
And so I think that that connection was a very empathetic connection. I felt what my mom was feeling, and I couldn't know what decisions she would make, but it definitely informed my view of this particular election.
Fascinating. And going back again to the fact that empathy is feeling with people, I think the reason that I have pulled myself away from this election, although I am voting, I actually scheduled it in my calendar, etc., is because voting, what happens is that there becomes a contentiousness. And instead of really looking at what is best for society, for humanity, or for people within a region or the country, people are on sides regardless of how what what the politician is saying or doing or representing, and then we become angry with people who don't share that point of view. So again, there is no with people, and there isn't even feelings for people. It's because it I don't know what it results in, but the feeling part is like, no, it's all about winning for at all costs. And I, as you know, I see that as a very transactional mindset. And I believe that that transactional mindset is a detriment to success in sales. Hence, I believe it's a detriment to society in general. I I do not believe that winning at all costs. And I'm sure there are people that will argue vociferously, strongly against what I just said. And they will tell me why one side is going to be better than the other, and hence you can't possibly allow the other side to, come in because it's going to destroy whatever. I don't believe that,
Yeah.
and I do think that we have, um, I don't know, puffed ourselves up as if we're more important than we really are.
Yeah,
And we've
that
forgotten humanity. We've forgotten the feeling with. It's about selling to people, not selling to businesses and selling to consumers, but selling to real people. It's humans to humans.
Yeah, and that's why I love working with clients and personal brands versus corporate brands, because at this stage of my life, I just feel like I want to be closer to people. And that definitely, to your point, Nancy, extends beyond, political beliefs, countries, borders of any kind, faith, anything like that. I really feel like the even regardless of the outcome, let's say in an election, that won't diminish my desire to connect with people, and people who see the world differently have tremendous value to us, and vice versa. The fact that we see the world one way, let's say, and another person sees it completely differently is value. And that's something to think of in terms of clients, prospects, selling, and messaging. To whom are you speaking,
Yeah.
and what value are you bringing? And are you seeking to work only with people who have a very finite experience, or do you seek to work with people who maybe have an open mind themselves?
Yeah. And so, again, to go back to the idea of empathy, especially as it relates to marketing and sales, when you can express and identify feelings with your prospect and with your clients, there's going to be a natural bond that forms, as opposed to lip service or intellectual mumbo jumbo that will not connect in the same way as feeling with and understanding people's feelings, whatever that is. And hence, I know that when you bring out someone's brand, their personal brand, it's all about helping them reconnect to who they are in a very authentic way. Am I right?
Yeah. It's very true, and I don't even think that's something that you or I have control over. I think our methodology may be born of, education, input, trial and error, all of this stuff. But really, the same way that we've gotten in touch with who we are essentially as business people, as whole people, that is what I think each of us tries to do with our clients, which is to help us be a whole person.
Yeah.
And that's something that a brand can't be, that a corporate brand or a product, a shoe or a lamp, can't really be a whole person. And LinkedIn has been a marvelous catalyst, I think, in many ways for that. Don't you think?
It definitely has allowed me to connect with people I would never have met before, people who are like-minded and share my point of view. Earlier this morning, I was talking with such an individual, and I laughed. She laughed. I laughed when I said, I don't know whether or not there's any synergy here with our businesses, but I do know that I like you, and I would like to be in touch and build the relationship with you. And like I said, she laughed and I laughed, because that really is the basis of maybe doing excellent business together. And as it turned out, as we kept talking, there was a great opportunity for us to collaborate. And, had I been more transactional in my approach and I might not have even allowed the appointment to go through. Like, well, what am I doing talking to somebody who's, in la la land about something I know nothing. So empathy. Do you bring empathy when you go to a sales conversation, or is it all about the sale? You see, it should be about the conversation, and it should be about connecting with that person in an authentic way. And what I teach Hersh by identifying someone's buying style is not to manipulate them so that they will now have this instant connection with me, but it is to be able to speak a language that facilitates our connecting with each other authentically and more rapidly than kind of meandering around and not knowing which direction to take.
Yeah, that's what I love is the way that knowing a personality, knowing your own, knowing the other person's personality, it may take longer if you're wanting to get to a certain sale or a certain conclusion because of their personality and their buying style,
Mhm.
but it's also going to be way more profound and way more real, the bond that you form with them, because they're going to appreciate the
Mhm.
fact that you appreciate who they are.
Yeah.
And that was something that happened to me where someone was selling me a service and I was resisting it very much. But it was when I really felt that this person knew who I was and what I was going through. And that if they could appreciate, if they could empathize, if they, because we can say a couple things to people. I hear you. I feel you.
Mhm.
Right. I've been there. But those are really they can be really meaningful things if
Lip
someone means
service.
it. Yeah. It can
Yeah.
be nothing or it could really be really meaningful. I feel you. I know what you're going through. I went through something myself. Sometimes it doesn't end up in a sale for them
Yeah.
or for us
Yeah.
because being that honest, may not be the lead to the conclusion we want.
Yeah,
But
you're reminding me of a very typical strategy in sales parlance, which is the feel, felt, found. I feel the same way. This is what I found, etc. And but it's lip service, Hirsch, as opposed to coming from a place in your heart. And that's what empathy is about. Can you allow the other person's experience to touch you? Not just in an intellectual way, but can you allow it to touch you? And at the same time, when it touches you, not to go under yourself. Otherwise, you won't be any good to this person. If they're drowning, now you're drowning with
right,
them.
right.
But to offer, obviously, the fact that I'm with you, I feel with you, and get, by the way, I do know the solution. Let's help you go above the water and, learn to dog paddle or whatever it is
Mhm.
to a place of safety. Well, I notice our time is scooted by. I hope that viewer, I really want you to think carefully about what we've said about empathy. Are you bringing empathy to your interactions, or is it just lip service? And with that, to your sales success, it's Dr. Nancy Zare, the sales whisperer.
And Hersh Rephun, your personal brand builder.
This was Know and Sell Pointers to your sales success.